Hi there, welcome to the channel. Brian, ZL3XDJ here, and we're just doing a small video, sort of an update with regard all the experiments I've been doing recently with vertical antennas, and sort of where I am now, and the steps I took to get there, very briefly and very basically. And yeah, the title's a bit maybe a bit misleading, because the title is elevated half foursquare with more gain, and I think we all basically know what a foursquare is, which is basically four verticals a quarter of a wave from each other. And I think there's a kit you can buy where you have all the phasing coaxes on the ground going to a center unit, which is the control for the different four directions. So myself personally, and I always just throw this in because it clarifies where I'm coming from. I only mainly work long path. I mainly work long path in the evening here. I don't work short path in the morning. Being a full-time carer, I'm normally busy most mornings. So the idea is, with antennas for me, I'm looking for more gain going long path. So I have got space outside to put a 40 or a 20 meter foursquare up, but it would be a bit of a waste, obviously, because I would only want to use one direction, and that would be long path. So basically, what I've done is taken half of the foursquare, which is two verticals, firing in one direction, and I've made it a parasitic. I've made this antenna a parasitic. This does away with all the coax direction switches and all these types of things. It's just one vertical antenna with a coax going to it, and 5 meters, between 4 and 5 meters behind it, is another vertical, which is slightly longer. Normally I tune it so it's 100 kilohertz lower in frequency than the driven element. And and how this came about simply was, initially I had a single 20 meter vertical on the floor with lots of ground radials, usual setup as we know, and then with some info that I got from Peter, G3OJV, mentioning elevated vertical antennas. So then I quickly put up a 20 meter elevated vertical antenna, and this was 2 meters off the ground with 2 to 4 elevated radials. And so we mentioned the radials quickly there, because elevated, not only me has been looking into this and researching it. There's been many articles written in the past by other people, and generally it works out. Everybody comes to the same conclusion. If you have a one elevated radial is worth, I think it's 15 on the ground. So if we have 2 elevated radials sloping down from an elevated vertical, it's equivalent of 30 radials on the ground, far more than's needed for any vertical. So moving on quite quickly from that, I had the single vertical on the ground with a couple of hundred radials on the ground, and then I put up a single elevated vertical on 20 meters, and I did some tests between the two, using the reverse beacon network, using contacts on the air and switching between the two, and also looking at some SDR waterfalls. And generally I came up with exactly the same results as a lot of other people have done in the past. The elevated vertical with 2 radials was between 1 and 2 S points stronger every time than the single vertical on the ground with radials. That's what happened there. So then we decided we'd try and increase gain in one direction, and for me that's a long path. So I need a parasitic reflector behind. So I simply made another elevated vertical, and it was about, I think it was just under 5 meters distance behind, and you can see these in previous videos. And this one was actually tuned, as I say, about 100 kilohertz lower in frequency than the driven element, and that'll give you the increasing gain for me in long path, and also a reduction in the noise. And because the elevated verticals, have less ground losses, being above the ground, it enhances both transmit and receive. So I ended up with a two element elevated parasitic vertical array firing long path. There's nothing connecting the two in between. There's nothing in between. So it's not like the Foursquare where you've got lots of radials around the vertical elements and you've got phasing lengths of coax and a control box and all this in the middle. My two have nothing in between, and that gave me between 2 and 2.5 S points gain. So I average it out over the last couple of months, that about 2 solid S points gain over the antennas that I used previously. So just have a quick look here. So this would be this is a picture of a normal Foursquare. Obviously 4 verticals, quarter of a wavelength apart, with a control box in the middle which has phasing coaxes going to each corner, and obviously lots of radials around each of the 4. So basically all I've done here, I've just used 2 of these verticals, but I've actually exchanged verticals on the ground for elevated verticals, because elevated verticals have less ground loss and I get a better gain using elevated verticals. So that's basically all I've done, is I've cut the Foursquare is just to take the 2 back ones away altogether. Don't need that. Take away the phasing coaxes, take away the control unit in the middle. This one on the right has a coax going to it, but as I say, mine is now, I'll just show you down here if this works or not. Mine looks, instead of being a vertical straight on the ground with lots of radials around it, mine is now like this here, where this is the elevated vertical with two radials. The radials should be, these radials, I haven't drawn it very well. The radials, let's have a look here. Radials should be more out this way, sorry. More out this way. And that'll give the verticals being elevated will naturally give more gain and work better than a normal vertical on the ground. And the other thing, So if you were to decide, say you're in the UK and you only want to work the USA, you just set them up so you're pointing towards the USA. And if you wanted to work long path, you just set them up so you're working long path. This is the I just pinched this off the internet, but with the two verticals, this is pretty much the sort of pattern that you get from it. It's fairly wide at the front, so you still got a wide area you're covering, but it is quite it's quite of a null in the back of it, and this is why I find when I go on the air, there is the band seems very quiet at first, but then singles just seem to pop up from nowhere, And if you have as I say, if you've only got a small garden, you can't fit a 4 square in. This 20 metre 2-element half 4 square, if you want to call it that, can only has to be 5 metres apart. So say for instance you want to fire in this direction over here. This is you want to go northeast for whatever reason. In my case, I fire southeast. But if you want to fire northeast, all you got to do is put the if this was a fence, so just doing this is a bad drawing of a 3D. If this was your garden fence, all you had to do was put one of the verticals, elevated verticals here. You'd have a wire coming down the side of it and 2 radials coming off, going to the top of the fence. Then you could put another one 5 metres behind, same situation, radials going to the fence, and the wire on the top on this one would be 100 kilohertz, tuned to 100 kilohertz, lower in frequency to this one, and that would give you that two S points to the direction that you want, and a big null, as we've seen, a big null on the back, which knocks all the noise down. Conversely, if your garden is not orientated exactly to the direction that you actually want, and I know there's a lot of people in the UK that like to work long path, VK and ZL, and I would do the same if I was there. If your fences are not actually pointing the way you want them to be, you can also utilize the corners, because you've got no cables on the ground or control boxes in between the elements as you would with a 4 square, and you've got no radials on the ground. You could simply put one vertical on one fence and the other one over here on the other fence, and that would give you a different angle completely, depending which way you want to fire it, to going straight along the side of the fences. So it gives you almost choices of eight directions to aim a 2-element parasitic 2-element elevated vertical array in, and I say that it normally gives you between 1 and 2 S points. Mine at the moment are generally giving, let's say, be charitable, they're giving me 1.9, 1.8, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 2 S points gain every QSO, and obviously lull from behind. So as I say, the reason the title was called a half 4 square is basically that's all I've done. I've taken a 4 square design and cut half of it away, cut all the radials on the ground away, taken away all the phasing lines and control box, and just having it in a parasitic, and it still gives you 2 S points. And by setting it up in the garden to whichever direction you want to be in, you can just leave it there, and if you've got room for other antennas, if you wanted to work other directions, fair enough. But this antenna, I set it up, as I said, for me, just for long path. That was the main aim of it. So there you go. It's just a quick rundown of how I got to where I am now. As I say, from the single vertical on the ground with lots of radials to then having a elevated vertical with 2 radials and getting one and 1.5 S points gain straight away, and the noise dropping down completely. And then once I put the parasitic reflector behind it, things improved drastically from then. A lot less noise, a good 2 S points gain, and basically I probably have to admit, if I could put like I say, I could put a 4 square up. I probably haven't got the patience to bother with all the verticals and all the phasing lines and switching boxes and cables and I mean I think it's probably quite expensive as well. So the system I ended up with, me personally, as I work long path, I think if there was a 4 square to compare against, standard 4 square on the ground compared to the 2 element parasitic system that I have, I think my 2 element would still come out slightly on top, simply because the difference between elevated verticals and verticals on the ground make a huge difference. So there we go. There's my bit of a run through and a bit of an update. There's my half 4 square, half 4 square, 2 element elevated parasitic array firing long path, and yeah, it easy, cheap. Took me maybe half an hour, to put it up, and I've got an extra 2 S points going into the UK, which it has shown up on my logbook. I'm now hearing and working a lot more G stations. Keep calling, guys. I like that, and saved putting a 4 square up in the garden and having all that expense. I think if I wanted to work, if I wanted to work short path as well, I think actually, when I think about it, might sound a bit daft, but I think I would actually put another 2 element parasitic array up like I have now, but 5 meters away, firing the other direction, and still do that instead of putting a 4 square up. Just the amount of time, the amount of expense, and the amount of, like I say, all the cables and all these things that I needed with a 4 square. If I had 2 separate, if I had 2 half 4 square parasitic antennas like I have, one firing long, one firing short, I think it would still work better than me putting a standard 4 square up. I will, now I've done all these tests and experimenting over the last months or so, and the good reports I've been getting off everybody, I don't think I'll ever go back to using a vertical on the ground, apart from my 40 metre one that's been out there for donkey's years, and I think it's a bit too high to lift it up. There we go. Anyway, have a think. There's a few more videos previous to this one, shows you a bit more information about this antenna and about how I put it together. It's really, really simple, and it works. It works. I'm really happy with it. It's 2 S points. I don't know how much more power there is to me, but to me, people, it's like putting an amplifier on. I've saved buying a 4 square. I've saved buying an amplifier. And of course, if you drop down to CW, you don't, and put the narrow filters in, you'll get through it far easier than you would on sideband. So I don't need as much power either. So it's sort of I think I'll go and treat myself to a coffee, because I think I've got a win-win-win. All the best. I should be on the radio this weekend and try and catch a couple of you guys in the UK, Europe and Scandinavia, and hopefully on 40 as well, because that's starting to open a wee bit now. Take care, have fun, and yeah, just get a bit of wire and stick it up onto a tree and have a go and see what happens. Only only buy, only go and buy a lot of commercial gear and expensive gear if you really need to. I've never actually done that, never needed to actually. So anyway, I'm rambling again. 7-3 to one and all. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it, and hope to catch you all on the band going leading up to Christmas. 73s. Take care, Brian. ZL3XDJ with half Foursquare. Half Foursquare. Why not? Oh, what shall I call it? I call it, I don't know, a Kiwi DX, a Kiwi DX antenna, or, yeah, I don't know. But it works. Cheap, simple, works. What more do you want? Bye for now. Cheers.